Hello, my friends, and welcome to Neville Goddard's Stories. And today's story is the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. You have probably all heard of that story. There has been so many movies made about this beautiful story, and Neville has a different angle to the story. He has a different view. One of the things that has always been interesting to me about this story is I think that I have been watching this movie for, I don't know, maybe 10 times, especially the 2004 remake. And one way to interpret it is that it is a story about ourselves, about the hero journey, about the young Edmund becoming adult Edmund and going through trials, etc., to become the modern Count of Monte Cristo. But of course, Neville has even a deeper view about that, and let's go through it together and let's see what he has to tell us about that. Okay, and this is from his book, The Power of Awareness. Let me check. From Your Fate is Your Fortune, and it's in the 24th clairvoyance. So, to illustrate this point, here is a story with which the whole world is familiar, yet only the true mystic or clairvoyant has ever really seen it. So here Neville is telling us that we have to look in a different way to this story, and that only a few can see through that. And even seeing as the hero's journey and seeing as telling you something deeper. I remember when reading this for the first time from Neville, I been moved on the inside, and it has emotional connection, but we can all learn a lot from that. So let's start. So the story of Dumas, Count of Monte Cristo, is to the mystic and true clairvoyant the biography of every man. So here you could feel it that when you listen to the story or look the movie, it is going to talk to you, you know. It's very watchable. So maybe it speaks to our heart and to our souls. Edmond Dantes is a young sailor, and one day he finds the captain of his ship dead. And now he has to take command of this ship. And it's not a normal day. It's in the midst of a storm. And not just a storm, but they are at sea. So it's a storm-swept sea. And he attempts to steer the ship into a safe anchorage. And now Neville gives us his take on that part of Dante's journey. And he has, life itself is a storm-swept sea, with which man wrestles as he tries to steer himself into a haven of rest. And I believe that you have felt that. In my life, I can see that, man, it's been so rough, you know. It really is like a storm-swept sea. And I remember the story of the sense of time when the main character, the prince, tells that most people think time is like a river that goes down swiftly, but it's not like that, because he says that he has seen the face of time. So it's something similar to here, you know, like a mystical, very mystical commentary and view on the world. And on Dantes is a secret document which must be given to a man he does not know, but who will make himself known to the young sailor in due time. So he has something of value and he has to give it to someone, but we don't know who this is. And this document is a plan. It's a plan to set the Emperor Napoleon free from his prison on the Isle of Elba. So we're talking about an emperor, we're talking about freedom. Freedom is something that most men want for themselves, men or female in this case, is like most human beings. And now his commentary. Within every man is the secret plan that will set free the mighty emperor within himself. So he's telling us that you, I, us have something mighty inside ourselves, something strong, something that is hidden from the planes of sight. But on the other hand, I believe that deep down you feel that, and that you have felt that, and at moments in your life you have actually shown it. As Dantes reaches port, three men, who by their flattery and praise have succeeded in worming their way into the good graces of the present king, and fearing any change that would alter their position in the government, have the young mariner arrested and committed to the catacombs. Commentary. Man, in his attempt to find security in this world, is misled by the false lights of greed, vanity, and power. Most men believe that fame, great wealth, or political power would secure them against the storms of life. So they seek to acquire this as the anchors of their life, only to find that in their search for this they gradually lose the knowledge of their true being. If man places his faith in things other than himself, that in which his faith is placed will in time destroy him, at which time he will be as one imprisoned in confusion and despair. Okay, so here is a story of every one of us, and we all attempt to find security in this world. Is this true? Yes, it's very much true. Most of us are trying and attempting to find security and happiness and a good life, a life worthy of being lived. And I think that a lot of us, most of us probably, are misled. And he's telling us that there are false lights. We have greed, vanity, and power. We can see, if you look at social media, etc., you will see that most people there are trying to get so this power, fame, and a lot of wealth, so they can show it. Look at me, how I am great. This is essentially the gist of it. And he's telling us that most men, so not just a few, but most, believe that fame, great wealth, or political power would secure them against the storms of life. So we are portrayed everywhere that the people on the, let's say, quotation mark, top, who have great wealth, who are famous and have political power, are secure against all the storms of life. On the other hand, we see different people, acting differently. You have very famous people that are still depressed, anxious, having a lot of trouble in their personal relationships, etc., etc., etc. So, can we say that it's the truth, that great wealth can't, or political power can't secure us? I know. It does, on the surface, it does seem so that this would secure us, but on the other hand, haven't we seen a lot of powerful people fall down? So we as humans seek to acquire this as the anchors of our lives. And that's true. For example, we want to feel love, and we go and search for love. We're trying to search a partner who will give us love. We want to have things, so we go and get a job to secure ourselves, and we are told from a very young age that we need that and that and that to be secure in our lives. And later we find out that our search for this lead us to gradually lose the knowledge of who we really are. And so, if you see yourself as just a biological machine, then there is nothing important for you. But if you feel that you are something more, that you are the inner human, the inner man, the being that is residing inside yourself, then life becomes much different. If man places his faith in things other than himself, that in which his faith is placed will in time destroy him, at which time he will be as one imprisoned in confusion and despair. Okay, so we're seeing people placing faith in these outer things outside of ourselves. And Neville is telling us that in time it will destroy us. Looking back in my life, I wanted to feel love, so I searched for a partner. And because I felt unloved, I was laughed at, talking about love. So if I didn't feel that, I didn't get it. Only when I started to love myself, then things started to change. But that's a whole other story, because I have a much different story to tell about that, a mystical one. I still am thinking about that, but it's a challenge of itself. And so he's telling us that we'll be imprisoned. And that's true. If I say I need a person to be loved, then I become a slave to that person. If I need wealth to be feeling secure, then I need it, and I feel fear because I don't want to lose it. I fear losing it. And that becomes our prisons. Here in this tomb, Dantes is forgotten and left to rot. Many years pass. Then one day, Dantes, who is by this time a living skeleton, hears a knock on his wall. Answering this knock, he hears the voice of one of the other on the other side of the stone. In response to this voice, Dantes removes the stone and discovers an old priest who has been in prison so long that no one knows the reasons for his imprisonment or the length of time he has been there. Neville's commentary. Here behind these walls of mental darkness, man remains in what appears to be a living death. After years of disappointment, man turns from these false friends and he discovers within himself the Ancient One, his awareness of being, who has been buried since the day he first believed himself to be man and forgot that he was God. Okay, this part is very packed with beautiful deep knowledge and insight. Let's see. Here behind these walls, so we have walls, so we are in a tomb and it is dark and there are walls, and this darkness, he's writing that these are walls of mental darkness. So we are the one creating these walls of mental darkness, and they remain there because we are creating it and giving them life. And until we move in the inside, we remain in what appears to be a living death. Now, have you ever felt that in your life? Have you felt that life became just dull and like really a living death? Like feeling powerless? And I certainly have felt that. And after years of disappointment, man turns from these false friends. I certainly have felt that really strongly, really deeply. And so we turn from these false friends and we discover within ourselves the Ancient One, the power within. And that's his idea is his or our awareness of being. And this awareness of this Ancient One has been buried since the day he first believed himself to be man. So are we forgetting daily that we are God and not man, but we are God playing the part of man? We are this awareness of being. The old priest had spent many years digging his way out of this living tomb, only to discover that he had dug his way into Dante's tomb. He then resigns himself to his fate and decides to find his joy and freedom by instructing Dantes in all that he knows concerning the mysteries of life, and to aid him to escape as well. Dantes at first is impatient to acquire all this information, but the old priest, with infinite patience garnered through his long imprisonment, shows Dantes how unfit he is to receive this knowledge in his present unprepared, anxious mind. So, with philosophic calm, he slowly reveals to the young man the mysteries of life and time. Now the commentary. This revelation is so wonderful that when man first hears, he wants to acquire it all at once, but he finds that after numberless years spent in the belief of being man, He has so completely forgotten his true identity that he is now incapable of absorbing this memory all at once. He also discovers that he can do so only in proportion to his letting go of all human values and opinions. Again, very packed with deep meaning. So, this is a revelation. This is something that is revealed to us. It's not something that can be just casually tossed, it's revealed. And it is wonderful. And when we hear that this good news, this wonderful news, we want to acquire it all at once. It's the same as being thirsty for so long and then finally acquiring water, that we want to drink it all at once, but it's just impossible to drink it all at once because of all the years of thirst. So we find, after numberless years spent in the belief of being men, so when we forget that we are this beautiful incarnation of God, we have so forgotten our true identity that we are now incapable of absorbing this memory at once. And I can certainly feel that to be true, because I have to daily remind myself, and it's not easy, because if you live by your outer senses, we are enslaved by it, because it becomes like a prison, these outer senses. And the worst part is believing that we have to do something on the outside, from the quotation mark 3D, trying to move matter with matter, like Dispenza says. And he also discovers that he can do so only in proportion to his letting go of all human values and opinions. So here he's talking about proportions. Okay, so we can reacquire this knowledge, but we can reacquire it only to the proportion of letting go of all human values and opinions. So we have human values and opinions, and on the other hand, we have God's values and truth. So the more you let go of the human values and the human opinions, the more you become godlike, the more you come closer to God. As Dantes ripens under the old priest's instructions, the old man finds himself living more and more in the consciousness of Dantes. Finally, he imparts his last bit of wisdom to Dantes, making him competent to handle positions of trust. He then tells him of an inexhaustible treasure buried on the Isle of Monte Cristo. Commentary. As man drops these cherished human values, he absorbs more and more of the light, until finally he becomes the light and knows himself to be the Ancient One. I am the light of the world. So again, here we have the option of dropping human values little by little, and while we do that, because there cannot be any empty space, we absorb more and more of the light. So we have a choice. It's either human values and beliefs or God's values, beliefs, truths. Until we finally become the light, and then we know ourselves to be the Ancient One, this awareness of being. That's why it says, I am the light of the world. At this revelation, the walls of the catacomb which separated them from the ocean above cave in, crushing the old man to death. The guards, discovering the accident, sew the old priest's body into a sack and prepare to cast it out to sea. As they leave to get a stretcher, Dantes removes the body of the old priest and sews himself into the bag. The guards, unaware of the exchange of bodies and believing him to be the old man, throw Dantes in the water. Neville's commentary. The flowing of both blood and water in the death of the old priest is comparable to the flow of blood and water from the side of Jesus as the Roman soldiers pierced him, the phenomenon which always takes place at birth. And here we have a symbolical birth of a higher consciousness. Here I see, the death of our old one, the old garment, the old ideas about ourselves, and being reborn anew. Dantes frees himself from the sack, goes to the Isle of Monte Cristo, and discovers the buried treasure. Then, armed with this fabulous wealth and this superhuman wisdom, he discards his human identity of Edmond Dantes and assumes the title of the Count of Monte Cristo. Man, this is the commentary from Neville, man discovers his awareness of being to be the inexhaustible treasure of the universe. In that day, when man makes this discovery, he dies as man and awakes as God. Yes, Edmond Dantes becomes the Count of Monte Cristo, and man becomes Christ. Okay, again, very packed with important words. So there will come a time when we as humans, men, will discover our awareness of being, this I amness. And this I amness is, I feel it like pulsating energy, pulsating from me, of being to be the inexhaustible, so there has no limit. It is powerful. Inexhaustible treasure of the universe, and that's the right treasure. So in that day, when man makes this discovery, he dies as man and awakes as God. So we're no longer just ordinary men, but we awake as God. And yes, he says, Edmond Dantes becomes the Count of Monte Cristo by assuming to be the new him. He discarded the old Dantes and became the new Dantes. And in the same way, man becomes Christ. So my friends, I hope, or let's say, I assume that you enjoyed this story, and I'm happy that you have some new insights, maybe some new revelations, so that something was revealed in you. I really love this story, and now I can see a deeper meaning in it, because I think that we always felt that most of us probably felt like Dantes, and we know that there is the Count of Monte Cristo in us. And we try to bring it all out. We try to bring it out by studying hard, by working hard, by trying to acquire wealth, by trying to acquire power, by trying to force things, by trying to coerce the world, by trying everything we can with our rational minds to get what we want. And here I find that it's the crux of the thing, that nothing can be moved on the outside. It has to be done all from the inside. And that's, my friends, it's the biggest and worthiest challenge of our lives. So until next story, I give you my blessings.